Welcome to Lynn's Warriors. Our mission is very simple: protecting children, supporting survivors of human trafficking with truth and action. Collaboration is key to prevent new victims, educate the public, and help keep our communities safe. Today, we have a very special guest, Father Peter J. Spiro. I want to say, I'm just going to throw this in right at the top, Padre. I met you fairly recently. We were both at the Human Trafficking Summit in Virginia, sponsored by the Attorney General, Mayoris. And I just was fascinated because you sat there for hours listening to everybody and kind of taking it in. So, and I was emceeing, but I wanted to get to you all day just to talk to you and find out what's going on. And I know you closed out the summit and things like that, but I just wanted to point out that we need you, Padre, more than ever. I'm gonna leave it at that. But let's tell everybody a little bit about you. Chaplain with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, director of the Protect program, serving on the ground level with families, communities, and law enforcement. And you are bringing a clear moral voice to a crisis too many are ignoring. We'll cover the landscape in trafficking in Tennessee. We might touch the landscape around the country, what's going on with families, what guardians and parents need to know, because families today are made up. Padre, I'm here in New York City, and the families today could be grandparents raising the children, older siblings raising the children. So we have different dynamics of what that family is actually looking like in 2025. But we want to talk today, how churches and schools can deploy all of this information and have checklists and know what's really going on, because the goal is to keep everybody safe. And Padre, I will have all of your information for our warriors in the body of this video. Don't despair, because there's a lot of information about you. So I want to get right to it. So welcome, I'm going to say, Father Spiro, to the Warriors.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here, and I'm glad we crossed paths in Virginia. It was nice to meet you.
Well, no, it was better. I was thrilled looking out into, I'll say, the audience. That was something that needs to be done more of, like true collaboration between everybody: law enforcement, organizations, nonprofit, teachers, our elected officials, our churches, our synagogues. We need to bring community, because that's our hashtag at the Warriors: community creates change. But Padre, true collaboration. We throw that word around a lot, but I'm always looking for what I call true collaboration. So that event represented to me a great kind of true collaboration. And I'm still in shock that my great friend Tanya Gould said, "Lynn, come and stand at the podium." And I said, well, I'll try to behave there and see what's going on. But it was a wonderful event. We need more of those. I'm going to start with something. You answer any way you see fit. Tell us anything about yourself: where you grew up, why you're wearing the collar, whatever you want to start with.
Well, I didn't grow up intentionally wanting to wear a collar. So I'm a musician. It's kind of what I wanted to do. And I had a long, windy road to the point where it came, people talk about being called. It was a verbal slap in the face to me. And I was actually taking my Series 7 license to become a stockbroker.
Wow.
I had a job, everything was set, and I was in one of the classes to take this exam. And I heard, "You will go to the seminary." And it wasn't the person in the front of the class that said that. And then it was kind of like those movies where a grenade goes off and everybody's ears ring, and they put the ringing in the background of the movie. That's what happened. And I came back and I talked to my parents and I said, "Hey, I think I got to go to the seminary." And
wait, I don't understand. Stop, Padre.
Okay, go ahead.
This voice just came in like your head, like you have to go to the seminary?
No, it didn't come in my head. I thought the guy said it in the front of the class, but it wasn't his voice. It was just out loud. I've seen a lot of strange things over the past 30 years.
Okay.
So it doesn't really surprise me that happened, but I wasn't sure what the deal was. And I was told, I was going to do music on the side. I was going to have a full-time job and try and balance that out. And so I went back and I told, everybody, "I think I need to go to the seminary." And they're like, "You're crazy." That's, you can't make you'll find out when you grow up, you're not going to be able to make your family happy, let alone 300 families. And, it was discouragement all over the place. And so I quit my job and I went to the seminary, and that's kind of how I ended up where I'm at. That's a very short version of it. So, and I was always concerned about at the end of life, if I knew that was God's voice, which I did, and I said no to it, what else could I do in life that would make up for that? When God said, I called you to go and you didn't go. So everything else you did in life doesn't really matter. So that's why I did it. And I went against pretty much everybody, quit a really good job, and went to the seminary. And I finished the seminary 6 years instead of 7 years. And then I got married, because we can be married as Orthodox clergy. I got married, I got ordained. Then I went back to school for my doctorate. And then I got involved with law enforcement, and everything just kind of snowballed in different directions. And today I am not a parish priest. So I don't have a parish like I used to for 25 years. My community really is, I service special agents, forensic scientists, and analysts throughout the state of Tennessee at the Bureau as the Chief Chaplain for Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. I also work with the Human Trafficking Unit as far as being a trainer, and the PROTECT program, which is really an education program for schools and faith-based organizations as needed for the Bureau. And then I have a chapel that is under the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America, which is St. Barbara Chapel. And it's located in just a hair outside of Nashville, Tennessee. And I service human trafficking survivors at that chapel, as well as the foundation that I started, which is ARISTEVI Foundation. And then I'm also tied in with the Archdiocese as the director of the Freedom Ministry, which is it's an acronym. Everything's acronyms in law enforcement and everything in my life. So Freedom actually stands for Faith-Based Resolve to Eradicate Enslavement Didactic Outreach Ministry, which is the training of clergy and parishes, youth leaders, youth, and all the different organizations within the Greek Orthodox Church, but also representing the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America in the arena of human trafficking. So I have the law enforcement, governmental side, I have the faith-based side, and I have the NGO side, all kind of tied into what I do. And it wasn't anything that I set out in my early 20s to say, this is what I'm going to do with my life. It was a complete redirection. And I'm grateful that I'm doing what I'm doing, because the stories and the change that we're all able to see, and from the summit there to all the other programs and organizations that I come in contact with, I mean, it's a reward that you get in helping the least of the brethren, the least of what society, taking what a traffic victim goes through as being understood as a commodity, and then helping them work through that to become a child of God, and to see themselves as a child of God, and that their worth is not anything that they were told their worth is. Their worth is being a child of God, and seeing that transition and being able to help the survivors is a reward, I think, that is much greater than I would have ever got as a musician or as a great stockbroker in Chicago. So,
Well, you just said a mouthful. But but you now, correct me. I think you said to me in Virginia, you're unique. Like, you're the only one that does all of this. Did I imagine that, or did you tell me that?
oh yeah, that's
Because I feel like I heard your voice. First of all, you got a calling. Don't we call that you got a calling?
yes. Oh yeah,
To
for
go,
sure. Yeah.
because I'm not in any way, shape, or form. So, Padre, don't take it that way. I got a calling to be a warrior. I'm not law enforcement, healthcare. I have not been a victim or survivor of trafficking. I really woke up and said, I'm who's going to stop me? I'm going to name myself an expert, get out there, and I'm going to do this.
Mm.
I call that a calling as
I,
well.
I think everybody has
So,
it. It's just a matter of being quiet enough to hear it. I think everybody has that. There's a voice inside that is driving the direction of humanity. It's just, it's so noisy, and sometimes our will and our desire to implement the things that we think we should be doing drowns out that noise. And that voice, that calling, can come from other people. It doesn't have to be the clouds opening up, but it could be the voice of other people saying, hey, you should do this. Did you ever think about doing that? And sometimes we dismiss it and say, oh, that's nothing. But many times that's God's way of coming into our life through the voices of people that we trust and that we know are calling us. So yeah, absolutely, yours is a calling. And I think everybody in that room that we were in, for 3 days, everybody in there has a calling. And it's just a matter of, understanding that calling is difficult. Your calling is difficult. Everybody's calling is, it's a heavy burden when you're dealing with souls and you're dealing with, humanity and making a difference and fighting evil. And it's a heavy calling, and to toe that line day after day after day is definitely a commitment. So yes, yours is a calling, very much so, as everybody in those rooms.
Well, look, what do you do as I'm jumping around, so just bear with me, Padre.
That's okay.
But do you have so I have your business card that has, what it's missing? After it says, TBI Chief Chaplain, Protect Program Director, Padre, Reverend, Doctor. Where's musician on this?
Oh, that's a different
I can't.
story.
But, no, but music. I'm not kidding. Do you still? Are you still involved with music? Because we do a lot behind the scenes with survivors, with artwork, art therapy, music therapy, because it's a therapy for people. So what do you do with the music now?
Well, I got to play backstage with the Opry band here.
Oh,
I
like
play
that.
with the Jay Sekulow band, which was fun to do. And, there are different people that I've played with here in Tennessee. But at the foundation, just recently we had a gathering of survivors, and no one really knew that I had the music aspect in there. So they wanted me to play, and it was kind of calling out songs and play. So I'm a product of the 80s too. So I am an 80s rock musician. So when you hear me play, it's not Kumbaya on a acoustic guitar.
Love it.
It's like Satriani, Vai, Van Halen type stuff that I play, which is really a mind warp for a lot of people. And that's always come up when they see the collar, and then they see this crazy.
I love it.
Player. So yeah.
Look, I love anything with music because that's where I started, straight out of college in the music business. So I just think music is on one's worst day. I'm always recommending just close the door and put on some music and let it go, everybody. Whether you sing along by yourself or whatever you're doing, air guitar, music is therapy. There's nothing like music, in my opinion. We need more music. We need kids to have more music in their lives, more art in their lives. I do want to start with something, Padre, if you don't mind. I think this is a very challenging time anyway. Families are overwhelmed. Kids are growing up in this digital bubble. People are trying to put food on the table. I do want to bring up, yesterday we had a horrific event unfold, a school shooting that happened in a church. I think everybody pretty much knows the story. We don't even have to go through that. We've seen this many times over and over, right, in the United States. But so many people reached out to me, Padre, because I'm always saying you have to talk to your kids open and honestly, age appropriately, make them feel safe. They came to me all yesterday. Should I talk about it? Should I not open the can of worms? What do you suggest? What would you say about this situation in dealing with, the family unit? How should we deal with something like this? I'd like to get your thoughts on this.
Well, first of all, it's terrible that these mass shootings keep happening within schools, and the infrastructure that has to be set up in order to prevent that makes it almost like a military state. I mean, with metal detectors and glass that's bulletproof and all these changes that need to be there. It's so difficult because you can say your kids are safe and you're going to be safe, but we're not 100% sure. So talking to children, it's a difficult thing because we can only reassure them so much. and we have to take precautions on safety in every aspect. But when, we go for an automobile ride, where, we can pray for protection and hope that the drivers are safe around us, but we can never really quite 100% say that every scenario is going to be safe. We do the best we can, but the school shooter scenarios that keep happening. The thing is, we have to talk to the kids about safety, but it seems that the problem shooters are never being talked to about behaviors and how do you get access to those weapons? What is a parent missing? What are they not seeing in the behaviors of their children? And, there's some parents that, after being interviewed said, oh yeah, we knew they had this going on and they're complicit in some of these crimes. But I don't understand how you can miss all those signs from someone who's disturbed as a child. And then they have access to weapons, and they have access to do these terrible things. So, the focus, it always makes me upset that we have to go back and talk to the victims and say, we're here to support you. We're here to help you. And that, the terrible acts of these shooters are not being addressed ahead of time. And it's being missed, whether they're home alone, whether their parents don't care, whether their parents are helping them, feeding them, information that's bad, whether the home scenario is terrible, and they're in a domestically violent household, or a household that is, promoting aggression. I don't know. But it's awful. It's a terrible scenario. I was deployed to one school shooting a few years ago, and it's just, hundreds and hundreds of lives are affected. It's not just, there's the victims, but then when you deal with the law enforcement that have to go in and see children that are killed, and the teachers that feel guilty, and all these different aspects of hurt all the way across the board. It's incredibly evil. And I just, talking to kids, that there's the realities of telling our kids, you know what, we're going to try and make you as safe as we can, but there's certain things that you have to understand ahead of time. You have to understand, and that kind of goes across the board. And a lot of the things that we talk about with trafficking is what internet safety, understanding, posting pictures for home, security. So geotagging, what you say in chat rooms, where you're at, things that you might see but don't report. So there was one particular faith-based organization that came to me and said that they had a girl that was trafficked. And I said, what about the friends? Did they know? They knew that these things were happening, that she was being groomed, but they weren't aware, or were never made aware of what those signs were. So they never reported anything. So when we talk to children too, the other thing is, if you see something, say something. If you see something that's odd, don't be afraid to bring it forward. Don't be afraid to tell the authorities, but don't just tell the authorities, tell your parents, tell other people, so that word gets out, because things get dropped because people are overwhelmed, or they just don't feel it's credible, or whatever the case is. We need multiple voices to speak up when something looks off, and when they hear something, when they see behaviors that are odd, because you can't, it transitions, those odd behaviors, the hate speech, which, people would put online, or just kind of these plans that people see, or the talk that is, between classes. All that stuff needs to be brought forward and reported. So when we talk to children, it's like, hey, if you see something, say it. And if you don't feel safe, you go to the principal's office and you say, hey, this is what I saw, and this is something that scares me. And instead of just saying, well, I don't want to get in trouble, I don't want to be a problem child, we have to report these things ahead of time.
Yeah. And I recently came to this conclusion, Padre, that we really have to focus, as you're pointing out, on our youth, right? Our future adults, our future leaders, that we have to get in there and do a better job with intervention, teaching them indicators, teaching them it's okay to go to a trusted adult, your parent, or, somebody in the school, or a counselor or a doctor, somebody who is considered a trusted adult. And that's where I think there's a lack of, despite there's a lot of groups and organizations saying they're doing that, but I just read today, just to finish up, about this horrible tragedy that happened yesterday. A classmate came forward from the seventh grade. So this person was 23 years old. So seventh grade was a while ago. And she said, "Oh yes, she, whatever this person is identifying with these days, they something was writing in this cryptic language and doing all these strange things back then, and everybody would stay away. And so that's many years ago. So we have to do a better job in getting to the kids and making them feel like, this may sound a little crazy, it's almost cool to, like, you come forward and say, hey, I saw something, I heard something. It might be nothing. Because I deal with adults that have said to me, I saw something, I should have done something, I didn't. And it could be like 10, 15 years ago. We have to get people to understand. Tell me if you agree with this. It's 2025. It's just a different world. And I think we have to accept the reality. These things happen and deal with them in a much better way instead of ignoring, denying, just not wanting to think about it, because it's here. And the truth is reality. It doesn't seem to be getting better in these areas. So how are we going to change that? Would you agree with that statement?
Oh yeah, very, very much so. And I think, there's that fear of litigation too that people have. If I say something, am I smear campaigning somebody else, and are they going to come at me? Are they going to attack me because I said something? But absolutely, there has to be, the parents are the first line of defense in anything, whether you're talking about cybersecurity, you're talking about human trafficking, anything. And there has to be that open communication that you can come tell me something, and you can tell me. I'm not gonna yell at you about it. Even if I don't like what I hear, I need to know for your own safety. And it doesn't seem like that's ingrained in society as much as it should be. The dialogue. It's a lot of things, people will see something and then they swipe to the next thing and they swipe to the next thing. And it's, these blistered fast information of things that they're trying to process, and sometimes they can't process it because they're just going so fast through things. And it's really about slowing down and saying, okay, what was your day like? When I had youth groups, I would say, how are you doing today? Good. And I would say, and then I would change it, and I would say, what's going on? And they would go, good. And I said, that's not the answer to my question. You're just giving me a rote answer. But we have to get beyond that. We have to get to the personal dialogue with kids and let them talk and listen too. And, in ministry and counseling, a lot of the early counseling classes that you take, say about the ministry of presence, just being there and listening. Yes. And not being so eager to talk over people. And I think as parents, we have to really listen to what are kids saying? Do they feel comfortable coming to us speaking? And what are they saying? And are we listening to really what they're trying to say? So, sometimes you'll have kids that will say, I'm dumb, I'm not smart, or whatever. Well, where does that come from? And what are they saying? Are they having a difficulty in class? Are they upset with their teacher? Are they, do they have a learning disorder? Do they have a reading disorder? I mean, where's that coming from? And how do you get to the base of it? So instead of them saying, so-and-so at school is weird, and I try and stay away, what does that mean? And digging a little deeper, and then just holding back. And instead of, being so eager to say things, let's be eager to listen and really dial into what they're saying and what their concerns are. And that has to be an open door, but that's years of trust. That's parenting. That's building trust with school system, with a faith-based organization. I know as a clergyman, people would come with marital problems at the end of their problems. So they're like, we're getting divorced. And you're like, I didn't know that was happening. And they come to you last. We have to change that cycle, so that when kids see something that's off and they feel hurt, or they see something that's dangerous, they come first. And it's not somebody coming after a shooting, like you just mentioned, and say, oh yeah, I remember that being then. That should be on the front load instead of an afterthought.
Right. True intervention. I always compare it to slapping a bit. We're slapping a Band-Aid on everything. It seems to me, as opposed to getting in there and finding out why it's happening to change the whole course of all of this. And getting back to the kids, we work with a lot fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth grades. And once I gain their trust and wear them down in my warrior's way, you know what they say to me, Padre? My parents don't listen. Nobody listens to me. I hear this nonstop. Boys and girls both tell me about the listening. So that's why adults have to do a better job in listening. Let the kids talk. Let the kids guide us. I need kids to tell me what's happening online, like what they're experiencing, because I'm experiencing something different.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening with them? That being said, would you like to tell us about the Protect program? I'm very interested to hear some more about that and how we can all utilize that, get involved with that.
Well, the Protect program is really through the Bureau. So that's the training.
So that's a separate
training program for anyone who calls the Bureau and wants a faith-based training on human trafficking. It's very similar to the Freedom Ministry that I do for the Archdiocese. So it's really...
well, tell us about that. Tell us about the Freedom. I want to hear about that.
Yeah, Freedom Ministry, they're kind of similar. One is specifically for the Bureau, and the other one is for the church, and kind of how we cross paths too was through the Freedom Ministry. So my biggest, well, one of my big concerns is faith-based organizations, churches, any type of faith-based group. Recruiting for trafficking is very high, as you well know, in faith-based organizations. So do we have ministers, pastors, clergymen, faith-based leaders that understand what human trafficking is? Because my encounter and my experience with a lot of leaders in faith organizations are they don't necessarily know the difference between smuggling, kidnapping, and trafficking. And it's kind of this blur of terms. And then there's the other thing, well, it's not going to happen to us because we're not, in this particular demographic. And I say, have you ever had, I'll ask clergymen or ministers, I said, have you ever had somebody with domestic violence in their household? Yes. Their kids have an increased vulnerability to become trafficked in a domestic violent household. Do you have anybody with financial issues? Yes, same thing. So it's about making faith-based organizations aware from their leadership part to understand what it is, but also to understand the consumer side, which is another thing that ministers and clergy will encounter, is who are the people who are consuming traffic victims, not just the traffickers and not just the victims, but the consumers, which seems to get lost many times in the discussion. So when someone comes in to a faith community and says, I have a propensity for child pornography, or, I'm attracted to this or that, or whatever the dysfunction is, does the person that they're talking to know what to do with that? Or do they feel like they're the one-stop shop, that everything can come through me and I can deal with all these problems because these are my people? And, I tell people, you don't go to McDonald's for an oil change and you don't go to Jiffy Lube for a hamburger. So just because you might run a faith-based organization does not necessarily mean that you have all the answers. We have to have referrals. We have to have the resources. We have to know when we end as a minister, as a pastor, and when someone else begins, and where we do that handoff. So those are different conversations with ministers and clergy than, speaking to the youth and saying, you need to be aware of these online programs and these types of things, and someone buying you gifts. So they're different modules and different approaches to different groups within a parish. But so that's kind of what the Freedom and the Protect program do. The Freedom Ministry is, mostly for Greek Orthodox churches, because we have over 500 churches across the United States.
Wow.
The Protect program is for anybody within the state of Tennessee. Excuse me.
Wow. I just think of if every place of worship, every church, every synagogue really focused on this trafficking, and I mean in a big way. I'm not proud to say this, but my own church canceled my presentation on me, which I will be going back, because a year has gone by, to demand nicely, maybe not so nicely, I don't know yet. It's unacceptable, because I was told nothing other than, setting it up, doing everything, several meetings after the family mass, and then silence. And somebody, a little source of mine, as I was digging around, she said to me, listen, we don't want to open this up with our congregation. I'm like, well, you should have told me that. And it was the very basics, because and I know whether it's a form of, because this is so complex, this trafficking issue. I don't even like, Padre, that word trafficking. I don't think people really, the public, they don't understand it. It's slavery. It is the enslavement of people. And whether that is, we know it's happening in every town, city, and rural area. It is happening. There's not one area it's not happening in, whether it's online, real time, labor trafficking, which we don't talk enough about. It's happening. So if every place of worship would really want to, be that core place to discuss these things and help, I think we could make tremendous headway. But for me to be canceled, and it was just a general, nothing heavy, like organ harvesting or anything like that, just an introduction, kind of very light, to get people used to it's okay, you can ask questions and have a donut, So that was very shocking to me, that I want to offer, and always, resources, because that's the other thing I hear. People will say to me, I didn't know what to do. And there are a lot of resources for people. If you know where to look, or you keep them handy, we hope you don't ever have to use them. But I want to ask you something. We talk a lot about parents and the churches but what we don't talk enough about, and I keep asking, there's really not an answer, but I want to hear your thoughts on this. There are a lot of kids out there. They don't have any parents looking out for them. They're on their own. They have perhaps a drug-addled mother or father, single parent household, a mom who's working, because I know a lot of them, 2 or 3 jobs even. A lot of these older teens take care of their younger siblings. It's a loaded question. I want to know how we help them, the most vulnerable. Everybody's vulnerable. But there doesn't seem to be discussion on how to help them, because these predators are very smart. And these are the kids that fall to, anybody giving them a compliment or a couple of bucks for the hamburgers. I can't answer this one. How do we get to these kids? Because that number is growing and growing of this type of situation.
Yeah, I think, there's 2 ways that could be done with community programs that had community programming that was done properly. But I think there's enough churches across the United States that if we all understood that we have the greatest slavery crisis in the history of the world. So the first, 19 centuries of slaves, you add them all together, it's less than the amount of slaves that are current in right today. And I bring that up to churches too. And I say, how can we sit back and preach any type of gospel, whether it's, a synagogue, a Christian, whatever? How can you speak about freedom within a church and growth and a relationship with God, and then say, well, we're going to ignore the fact that we have slaves underneath us? So I think if churches had an open programs to welcome children in, and we were, I don't want to say like evangelists, but we were reaching out in community programs, and every church did that in their area and said, hey, we have an after school care program. You can come by, you can play basketball. We have snacks or something. Come here, do your homework. We have a quiet room, whatever. And the kids who don't have a place to go have a church community to go to. But then we're also talking about the church community has to be strong, and it has to be aware too. So you don't want to have kids that you're in an affluent area and they say, oh, that kid's, doesn't have the right clothing, or look at them, they're a mess. And then they get bullied within the church community, which is another issue that has to be dealt with, is the welcoming nature within a church community. But I think that could be done if everyone said, how are we going to interface with where we're at? How are we going to interface with the community around us? What are we going to do to make our community better? You can't just buy property, put up a dome or a steeple, and say, this is ours, and we have no interaction with the neighborhood. It needs to interact. It needs to be part of the community. As you look in other countries, the church was a center, and people's houses were built around that, and everybody came together for that. And now I'm not so sure that's the case in masses, but I think it could be if the word gets to one church, it gets to the next church, and they say, well, what can we do to make a difference? Consider this, consider that, consider, reaching, sponsoring students, sponsoring children in the area to know that a church may have a scholarship that they're awarding to anyone in the community to go to school. So if there's an indigent child that is smart and they have no prospect of going to school, that the local church, whether it's Christian or otherwise, could offer them an opportunity to get educated. I think there has to be that knowing that's out there.
That community.
And not for more members, not for more money, not for, to make everybody feel better that we have, more people and sitting in the pews. It's like, what is our calling to outreach and do philanthropy? And, as a Christian priest, I mean, Christ went to everywhere, and he said, this is what I can offer you. This is what I'm doing. And he was healing people. He was helping and evangelizing. And I think, our best way to help those that are really struggling without families, without opportunities, is to give them the opportunity to participate in a parish, and to participate for whatever those programs might be that would help them get out of their scenario and find friends, find trusted people that they could come to.
Yeah, like a community safe space. I mean, I do know across the country where that's happening. New York City, the inner city, the cities, it's a tough thing with cities, right? But yes, it should be a community hub where we get everybody involved. And on top of that, there are a lot of good people who do want to help. They just need to be directed to do this. I feel like you're getting a special call.
I am. I'm really sorry.
Do you need to take that?
No, I don't.
I feel like you need to. Oh, okay. No, I just want to make sure, because you look like maybe you had to go do something. I don't know.
We have a security gate, and I have workers there, and they cannot get into our facility without me buzzing them in. So I apologize, but
don't ever apologize. We need security gates around everything. I know we do. We need security gates.
Yeah, it's so we have our facility is kind of a lockdown type setup. So
I say good, because I want, unfortunately, but I want everybody. I want every school. I know it sounds impossible to have security gates. I know it's an impossibility, but I'll leave that for another program. I mean, we need to address things. We need to deal with this, and we need to have. I even heard this morning, there was a call for there's a lot of good law enforcement retired that would gladly volunteer to keep their community schools safe. Or it was even suggested today, there was a program suggested where they get a tax benefit, something. Why not? We deal with a lot of law enforcement, and a lot of them retire early here in New York, and they go on to whatever they're doing, a lot of other security jobs and things. And they would be more than happy around the country, I think, to be involved in keeping kids safe. So why aren't we employing these ideas or talking about them?
Well, convenience and security don't go together. That's the problem. And that's what parishes, I feel, need to understand is you cannot just leave your doors wide open and say, well, everybody can come in. It's like the airport. You go to the airport, you're inconvenienced to get through. But for the most part, you're secure when you get through. So there's that inconvenience of security. And that's just kind of, that's how it
Sorry.
is.
Sorry.
So that's why my phone rings, because you cannot get anywhere without, a high security entry. So, yeah, that's having
That's the reality.
resource
That's
officers are there. I mean, but changing doors from glass doors to steel doors, having entryways where you have double entryways. I mean, there's a lot of things that people way smarter than me in that area know. But it's when we want to leave the doors open and we're not paying attention and we just say, oh, everybody can just come in. It's difficult. And it's a very difficult thing because there's a lot of bad actors and we don't know everybody that walks through the
no,
doors.
we don't. We don't. And that reminds me, I always say it's like the internet. I always say it's like leaving your front door open, unlocked, and welcoming the world in. It's the same kind of analogy. What's the landscape in Tennessee? What's going on there? I bring this up. Well, you're going to explain, but also, we have Senator Marsha Blackburn, who's been a very big proponent of child safety in Congress, and she is going to be running for governor.
Mm-hmm.
And we're losing a very big advocate, it seems. And right now in Congress, because we do a lot of work in DC, we don't seem to have anybody to fill her shoes. So I'm just throwing that out there. We're a little bit concerned on my end with all the what's going on. But tell us about Tennessee. What happens there? I have a lot of friends in Tennessee. I've been trying to get to Dollywood like my whole life. I haven't gotten there yet. I'm gonna get there though. I'm gonna get to Dollywood. My friends live right by it, and I'm like, oh, so you haven't been there either?
No, I have not.
Oh, well, I don't feel too bad then, because I could see they do a lot of music in Dollywood, so I want to get to Dollywood.
Yeah.
And experience. But what is the landscape in Tennessee?
I mean, everywhere, every state that I've been, that I've spoken to, someone somewhere says we are a hub for human trafficking. Everybody says we have this road coming through. We have this road coming through.
I hear it all the time. I don't know.
And everybody claims to be the hub for human trafficking. So I would say that Tennessee is the same as every other state that has a human trafficking issue. I mean, it's everywhere. It's in every zip code. It's in every county in Tennessee. But if you look at New York, you look at other areas, it's the same story. So, I think one of the things that we understand in this realm is that traffickers don't see state lines. They don't see county lines. Somebody could start out one place and end up somewhere else. So it's a similar mold everywhere, and it's not good anywhere. So I mean, when you look at what the stats, there's 1 million. The conservative statistics are there's 1 million trafficked victims in the United States right now. So if that's 1 million divided by 50, that's 20,000 people per state that are trafficked. So, I mean, spread that across a state, that's a lot of people. That's an average. So
it's probably higher because this goes very
and that's a conservative. Like I said, it's a conservative number, but 20,000 spread across a state, every state, as an average is, I mean, it's shocking. So Tennessee, I mean, there's people in every state, I think, that are trying to make a dent in human trafficking. They're trying to make a dent in cybersecurity. They're trying to make a dent in, domestic violence or interpersonal violence, whatever forms that come across. But, part of the issue that I see is there's not, when you talk about collaboration, states don't know what other states are doing.
Yeah.
And organizations don't know what other organizations are doing. When I came to Virginia for the conference, somebody came up to me and said, "Oh yeah, I've heard about Aviation Network," and I said, "Yeah." And they're the founders in Tennessee. We sit in meetings together, and she's like, "I didn't know that," and we just found out about it. Which is Aviation Network is a network of pilots across the United States that will fly traffic survivors um, to wherever they need to go if they need to transition somewhere else for law enforcement or their house or whatever that it is.
Yeah.
And it's a great organization, but someone in the realm of working with human trafficking victims and survivors said, I just found out about this. And that's the unfortunate thing is there are great resources across
Yes.
many states, and we don't don't know what we're doing. But I mean, that's a national issue when it comes to pretty much everything, is the sharing of information, the dissemination of information, the collating of all that information it's not, it hasn't clicked yet. And I think when the time does come that clicks, the resources will become much stronger in everything, whether that's training for, whatever interpersonal violence or issues arise, to the services that could be given to survivors.
Yeah. And just to, domestic violence and human trafficking really intersect. And that's how I started with all of this, helping somebody with a book that they were writing about domestic violence. That's really what got me going on all this. I just couldn't believe. I found this to be unacceptable in America, of all places, that this was happening all over. So that being said, when I say true collaboration, Padre, this is an American crisis. Not only is it belongs to no political party, right? It's human rights abuses, right? I thought everybody could get on board with this. Right, left, up, down, whatever you are, like everybody would gladly step up. I thought, here's the one issue we can all work on: protecting kids, protecting the vulnerable. And then I found out, no, it's very tough to get people to truly collaborate. And I think we're sitting right now, also a very big push for AI, artificial intelligence. And even at the federal level, the administration is pushing this on to all the schools K through 12. Now, we haven't even really made too many inroads in helping just with the internet and Section 230, and now we've got the AI. What can you say about this? Can you speak about this a little bit? Because I, who do not use the word scared, frightened, I am frightened for our children, because this now becomes also, as you know, a national security threat. It's all kinds of things lumped into this. What are you hearing about AI?
Well, AI, as far as child pornography, is a big issue right now, because it's AI generated child pornography without actual children in it, is problematic. The deep fake bullying now is problematic with AI. So for those who may not know what that means, it's a video. It could be a pornographic video, and the face is replaced with the face of another individual that they want to bully. So it could be a child, an innocent child somewhere, or a teen, and their face is captured and placed on a pornographic video, and that video is disseminated against, in the school system or, wherever, and as a bullying tool for the child. So those things are deeply concerning. The ability to take sound clips and AI generate, whether it's government officials or individuals saying things that they might not have said, or that they didn't say, that are just generated, is a problem. And that's also a problem in the faith community too. There's a clergyman that is very well known across the world, who now is just came out with a statement about videos being fabricated through AI of him fighting and saying things that he didn't say. So it is very problematic. On the flip side of AI, I think in the medical field, it could be a game changer for people. The ability for AI to assist and help in medical diagnoses and treatments, I think will be something that wielded correctly and not restricted for financial gain, could be something that could really bring relief and peace to people. So it's kind of like the internet. The internet is incredible and it's awful at the same time. But I do think the proportion of the internet that's awful still outweighs the proportion that is, or the portion that is beneficial. So I think AI probably will be the same way. But I don't know. I don't know how that's going to be navigated, because that's not
Nobody
really
does.
my area.
Nobody does. We work with a lot of tech people, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's
No, it's
just,
okay.
it's back to school time. So I've always, the last 5 years, do not post pictures of your kids. I know everybody's proud of them going back to school. Do not put them, especially now with this artificial intelligence, this CSAM, this child sexual abuse material, we call it now. And people still post their kids. They just don't. This is the part I don't understand. What don't they understand about that? The privacy, but okay. I don't, that's the mindset. I don't understand that. But the artificial intelligence, there are no guardrails, which we're working for, in Washington. Also, the states are doing much more. They're doing better work actually than the federal government right now. I understand red tape, it's difficult. A lot's being addressed at state level. So that's hopeful, because we always like to have hope. But parents have to know this is going on. Kids have to know this is going on. We have to really have this open and honest communication. And I think that is the best place to start as we fight on these other levels, whether it's legislation, always fighting. I'm sure you're well aware. In New York, I'm always told, Lynn, let it be. We don't have safe spaces for people. We don't have places to bring people. Do you know how sad that is? When I'm told, just let it be. There's nowhere to bring these kids. So that is something. I don't know if you hear that. We hear that a lot. We don't have. New York State has designated, wait till you hear this, 15 beds for human trafficking in the entire state. 15, because everything is lumped into domestic violence. That's the focus, like here in New York State. We are trying very hard to separate and have trafficking, working on that. But 15 beds in this big state. And so we hear this all the time about where to bring people. We don't have safe houses, safe spaces. That is why at that home or community level, it is so important to get in there, because we're not going to stop this, but we can intervene. We can educate. And what, Padre, why can't we have a national handbook? I'm not kidding. That has
that's
state
what
by state.
I've been trying to get in the room with people to
It's like a no-brainer.
speak about.
Every state listed out the emergency numbers, a handbook that every school has, that every parent, every home is given. That, why don't we have, I've been turned down in New York. I wanted to do, I'm still chipping away at it. PSAs should be all over the media. We should be doing, I know the administration just announced, they announced for fentanyl. They're doing a whole project with that, with PSAs. That's great. But we need this national crisis of our children and of all people being affected. I don't know why people aren't in the middle of Times Square screaming about this, frankly. I really don't understand it.
Yeah, I think part of my thought is that there has to be people that can make a difference from a financial perspective. I think that's something to be said. And I'm not saying just, you go after rich people, but I think there's people that can make a difference and have the imprint and have the ability to have safe spaces, to afford to sponsor a safe space. But the inspiration has not hit them. The message has not resonated. They've never seen. You see in some of the conferences and things you go to, there's a lot of statisticians that have stats on things, and they understand, what trafficking is, but have never encountered a victim. They have never encountered a survivor, and they've never spoken to them. They've never heard their story face to face. They've never had to deal with their needs. And that's where our foundation shines, is we are there with survivors, trying to figure out what are their dreams of their life, what do they want to do, and speaking with them and hearing their stories, hearing how, and not forcing it, but letting them unroll their stories and learn how to dream again for the first time. But it takes inspiration for people that can 15 beds in the state of New York. There's probably people that own hotels that are empty or apartment
Exactly.
complexes that are empty, and could say, "Oh, we could designate this, or we could make this one a foundation for helping, and staff it and write it off, and it wouldn't
That's
it
what
wouldn't
I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to
it
tell
wouldn't yeah."
real estate people, oh, you could have a tax write-off. You could, there's
But it's
so
the
much empty
inspiration.
real estate here.
It's the inspiration, and unless a person is inspired to hear what the message is and understand what human trafficking is, and hear the stories either relayed to them from a firsthand experience or relayed to them through someone who is working with a traffic survivor, you can't get it. It's just not. There's a phrase in Christianity that says you can convert one to Christianity by what you say, and 1,000 by how you live. And I think it's very similar. Is you can't. The inspiration for people has to come from someone who has either come from that experience. That's why some of these summits have these lived experience speakers come, because they've been through it. They've dealt with what it's like to be trafficked or domestically abused, or both, or and beyond that. But I think that's the only way that can grow.
But we've been doing it. Not to play devil's advocate, but listen, first of all, anything with trafficking, there always has to be a survivor voice at the table.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be guided by, I like to call it plugging in holes, what they tell us, what's needed. They also have their own community. They talk, with each other, what is needed. And that was, when I started the Warriors, one of the most shocking things, because right away I was about what trickles down to people, survivors, victims, victims being they're still part of, actively involved perhaps with law enforcement. I like to say that's a victim kind of thing. Survivors, they're out of it. They're working to change the pathway. I didn't understand here in New York, giving somebody a $15 Target gift card. I mean, what I don't understand, because we do a lot behind the scenes with supporting survivors, things like that. So we have to point out, we always have to have a survivor at this table to talk and tell us what's needed. But let me tell you something. This is true. In the United States, more money is spent on animals,
Mm-hmm.
giving to animal organizations, than money's given to human trafficking, domestic violence. And I find that shocking. That I guess that's a cuddly dog or cat or something like that. But I found that to be shocking, that more billions are spent on that than actual people. But I've been approaching the game plan. There's a lot of empty real estate to set up things like this, to be, I feel like if we had one real estate developer company, I'm talking about New York now, at the forefront who started this, it would spiral, kind of snowball.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it seems like a no-brainer. Maybe get some tax breaks and stuff like that. It's a very tough thing. Let's finish up with, I want to point out, going back to the landscape in Tennessee, are you familiar with Shared Hope and the work they do?
I've heard of that. I
Okay, they're just a national organization. The only thing you need to know is they put out report cards every year. They spend a year creating for all the states. Okay. And every year, all the states fail. It's like A, B, C, D, E, based on it's law enforcement, legislation, take actions. It's a whole package for each state. Basically, from last year's report card, the state of Florida was at the top with a grade of C. Nobody's ever getting A's and B's with any of this. And this has been going on for years. And I'm just throwing that out there because there is so much work to be done. And I don't understand why we're not moving faster in this area to help. Education is key. The intervention is key. The safe spaces are key. Like, there are a lot of solutions. There are good people who know how to do these things. I was spearheading at the White House in July, a round table. And I basically said, this is very nice, but we have solutions. Now we have to get them enacted and financed and get it going. Mm-hmm. And people look at me like it's a very strange thing I'm saying, Padre. But there are good organizations that know how to do things. There are survivors. Their voices must be heard, right? So that being said, I could just talk to you all day. I hope you come back and talk to me again, because these issues cannot be covered in just, an hour here and there. We have to have ongoing discussion, take actions, resources. A reminder, all of your information will be in the body of the video. But if you had 10 minutes today to talk to parents, guardians about their children, about what they should be doing with all of this, what would you say to them?
Well, first, they have to be honest with themselves. I think taking an inventory of your life and realizing you may have problems that's where it starts. Do you live in a domestically violent household? Do you have abuse problems? And people need to be honest with themselves before we can really say you can, speak to your kids properly. So I would say that's self-evaluation and self-inventory is key. And then how do you fix that? How do you get yourself whole so that you can make your children whole, or people that are your father or mother figure too? How can you help them unless you yourself? I mean, everybody struggles, and it's okay to have struggles. It's okay to have problems and issues and things, but do you have the answers, and do you have the pathway to get through that? Because that's key for children to get through it too. We can't just tell our kids, go to church and, go to the youth programs or whatever. And then, we're anti-church, 7 days a week, and we do something different. So taking an inventory, being real about where we're at, and then also being consistent. I think parenting, because we're talking about children, parenting, being consistent, not being, do what I say, not what I do type thing. It needs to be, I'm doing it, I'm walking, I'm struggling too, but we're getting through that, and together we're moving forward. I think that's the first part. And then understanding that everything in a child's life comes through the parents. The parents are the defenders. They are the first line of defense in everything for a child. And it's understanding that it's a hard job, and it's a job that, you could wake up in the middle of the night and your kid's standing over you, I'm going to throw up, and they throw up on you because you're the first one they go to. It's not, so those are the things to understand, is that burden of parenthood it's a divine burden, and it's a gift, but it's difficult, and it has to be something that you never let off the gas with, and you never step back and say, well, it's okay today. You talk to any parent, whether their kids are 2 years old or their kids are 42 years old, they say it, you never stop being a parent. You never stop with, it's just the issues morph and change through the years, but you're always on duty, and you always have to be listening, and you always have to be responsive. So I would say, that's key from the parenting side. From the children's side, be aware that everything that is out there is not, it's not all good. And there's a lot of bad actors. There's a lot of people that are trying to manipulate everything, whether it's your information, whether it's your picture, whether it's you as an individual child. And to be very careful of what you consume, how you consume it, and what you share with people.
Yeah.
Because not everybody deserves every piece of information. And with trusted people, even that, there's people you trust in certain ways, and then there's people you trust in other ways. It's like, when somebody goes to a doctor and the doctor says, okay, I need to examine you, they check you out in that way, but it might not be the psychological way. You might not want to tell them your struggles and your worries, but they're dealing with you medically. And someone that you talk about with your struggles and worries, you're not going to ask them for medical advice. What does this look infected to you or whatever? I mean, it's, everybody has their lane, and to understand that takes pause, and it takes slowing down a little bit. And in the age of, flicking everything, it doesn't really contribute to pause and to processing information slower. And I'm not saying that I'm old and I'm slow. I mean, but I just think for children, we have to give them the space to slow down a little bit to process what's happening during the day, because you get, all this information being thrown at them every single second through media, and you have to make split decisions here and there, and there's no reason that you need to make those decisions that quickly. So I would say to children is slow down. If something comes at you and you're not sure of it, go to a trusted person, whether that's a parent, whether that's a pastor, whether that's a aunt, uncle, friend, grandmother, grandfather, and slow down before you respond, and just take it in. And if something seems too good to be true, it always is. Somebody wants to buy you a new purse, or they're offering you, something that you didn't earn the old-fashioned way by hourly work, and take your own money and purchase it. There's always strings attached. They say there's no such thing as a free lunch, and that's the case. So I would say that's for kids, and I would say for clergy and pastors and ministers, it's a lot easier to say, I don't know what human trafficking is up front, and I want to learn it, even at my embarrassment that I don't know, to say as someone running a faith-based organization, instead of coming back later and saying I had someone who was trafficked and I chose not to learn about it, and now I have to spend the rest of my ministry trying to catch up with that and make better for that. So I would say get on the front side of it and dispel any thoughts of what it could be, or worrying about your ignorance. I have yet to meet anybody in the realm of speaking of human trafficking that has bludgeoned someone for what they didn't know.
Right.
It's never have I seen that. Everyone is eager to share, eager to help learn, eager to give resources, eager to give pamphlets, help, organization tips, whatever. Everyone is eager to help. And there's no scenario in training, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's NGO, whether it's faith-based, there's no scenario where I've ever seen someone get trained and they say, I can't believe you didn't know that. You should have known that. That's not how it works. We're in the field of human trafficking awareness. Everyone is eager to share what they know for the benefit of the person that they're speaking to, and most of all, for the benefit of children that should not be slaves and made slaves because of our ignorance. So if we choose not to learn, it'll catch up. Everything catches up when we choose not to learn or turn an eye away. But it's very easy to get training. It's very easy to learn about it. It's very easy to get involved in the arena of anti-human trafficking. It's just a matter of being inspired and putting away the notions of, well, that's going to be too complicated, or it's not going to happen to us, and just say, you know what, let me learn and see what this is all about, because I don't think there's a person on the planet that would say slavery is a good thing.
That's why I use the word slavery a lot, because that word seems to resonate when I'm speaking to people much more than trafficking. I think they get confused by trafficking. They don't understand traffic. I really think that. That was a recent revelation. And I remember, when we did that conference in Virginia, remember all the tables and displays with all the information? And I kept, Padre, thinking, I wish the public could come in and take the information, because we kind of all know, right? Even if we didn't know the organization per se or something, like, we kind of know what it is. I keep trying to say we have to get the information into the public. So, and I say this respectfully, enough with the conferences, summits, roundtables, like, we got to get in the communities. Forget, how are we getting this actually into the communities? So that's what I'm working on, among a lot of other things. Do you have any travels coming up where you'll be speaking about any of this that we can look forward to?
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of back and forth. I have a lot of different things
Okay,
on the agenda.
Well, we want that. We want that. We want your voice out there. We want you telling them, to get involved with their churches and youth groups, or form a youth group or something. We need your voice. Finish this up. Any final words before I let you go?
I mean, if anybody's interested in learning more, I'm sure you're going to have the website for the foundation.
I am having everything all the way back to when you were born. It's going to be loaded up.
I would say that if anybody has any questions on anything, they can reach out to me at probably the foundation
Okay.
website has a
Contact.
thing that they can fill out on there, so they can fill out the form and then it will email me. But if you're interested in anything as far as the initiatives or trainings, whether you're in Tennessee or whether you're across the United States and you're interested in getting some type of information, I'm more than willing to speak with anyone from any faith-based organization in any state. So I'm kind of all over the states speaking, and more than glad to answer any questions that someone might have.
And that is the warrior's way. I want to say, Father Spiro, I want to say to you, thank you so much for your witness, your work, everything you're sharing, all of your messaging. It is so needed. We must remain very stubborn. I'm going to use that word about protecting kids and getting information out into families and communities. And thank you for all of your work with survivors as well, because like I said, we can't do any of this without having survivors, their voices, their lived experiences at the table with us to guide us, to help us, and help us get the churches. We got to get them to open the doors, and I got to get back to my church and beat them down. I say that nicely, to have some awareness. I mean, I do bring donuts and coffee and juice for kids. Come on now. Just to start talking, like make people comfortable to talk about this. And you've really opened up the door with everything you're doing. And just remember, if a child isn't safe, we have no safe future. We have no, I look at it that way, not only in America, but across the globe. Right. And promise me, Father Spiro, we will speak again soon, because there's lots to talk about. And I have so many more questions for you, but I know you are warrior busy, so I want to let you go. But thank you so much for joining us. Again, all your information, do not worry, will be in the body of this video, contact information. Everybody can take their time, ask questions, read up, study up. And also, we ask everybody to share the information. Share this video, because we want the information to get out into the public. So with that, I say thank you, Father, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks, Father.